Please note that these few seconds, actually, I added them to the episode a few weeks after I recorded the episode, but I found it's very important. We all know that the minor prophets are 12. Now, if they insist that Baruch is a prophet, then they should be what? Should be 13, which no one says 13. The Jews never say 13. The Messianic Jews never say 13. So just they invent stuff for themselves. I really wonder why they're doing all this stuff. Let's start our episode. Dear brother and sister, Saints in Christ, welcome to an episode. This is our last episode in the series of the Apocrypha books, in the sense of studying books. But there will be another episode, could be two, about why the traditional people get hold, and they are very much into holding and proving that these books are canonical books because of some teachings that we'll expose. All right. Before I start this, I would like to tell you a disaster that found, which is normal in the traditional books. The more you dig in, the more troubles you find, and the more filth you find. You know, keep talking about the first and second Maccabees, and we found in the apostolic canons, or that they were referring to 3 books of Maccabees, but in the Arabic it says only 2 books, and even whenever there is any one of those priests trying like to explain first and second Maccabees, but in fact in this book, which you one day will have a series about it, could be 2-3 episodes. In this book, the Orthodox study book, which actually sold in the Coptic Church, there are actually 3 Maccabees, not only 2. This to show you the mess that is there. All right? Okay. So let's start. Who is Baruch? Baruch actually is he was the secretary of Jeremiah. And actually he believed that Jeremiah is really the true prophet, but the other ones are not. And actually he suffered so much because of his friendship with Jeremiah, because his friendship was not just a friendship, because sometimes when Jeremiah was in the prison, Jeremiah was giving him what the Lord tells Jeremiah, and Jeremiah couldn't go out because in the prison. Then he was telling Baruch, take, this is the word of God, and go, for example, to the temple and read it before all men and women there, or take the word and go and read it before even the king. So it was not actually comforting words, it was warning words to the extent even they thought to get rid of not Jeremiah only, but also to get rid by killing even Baruch. They said this guy should be killed. But the Lord, in like a miraculous way, hid him, or so he was saved from their hands to be killed. All right. So this is the man. He never called himself as a prophet at all. All right. So let's read now this. If we start reading the book of Baruch, we'll read the following, chapter 1. These are the words of the book that Baruch, son of Neriah, son of whatever, wrote in Babylon. So this is my important point. That they say that these words were written in Babylon by Baruch. So this means he was in Babylon. But also, if we continue in the same chapter and a bit further, 2-3 verses, it says, and Baruch recited these words of his book, hearing of those many people. All right, I skipped the names. All who dwell in Babylon by the river Sud. Baruch 1. Then from those 4 verses of the first chapter, we understand one thing, which is the most important thing, that Baruch was in Babylon, because you'll find now he was not in Babylon, by the way. Okay, this is the book of Baruch, not the Jeremiah. All right, so he was there, and he recited his words. Now, don't he recited, and these words of him were recited in Babylon. But the way it is written, it shows it is not Baruch actually writing, but someone is writing about Baruch. Shall I say this again? These are the words of the book of that Baruch, son of Neriah, son of Maaseiah, son of Zedekiah, son of Hadisa, son of Hilkiah, wrote in Babylon. But someone is saying these are the words that, but not actually he is writing, but someone says this is the words of Baruch that he wrote in Babylon, and even he recited it in the hearing of the people that were gathered in Babylon. All right. So, but who is the writer? Unknown. Of course, this is a big problem, by the way. All right. Because how do you know that this person writing the right thing? Actually, we will find now that actually Baruch didn't go to Babylon at all. That's it. So finished. All right. But we'll find some stuff. They try now to say, because of this and that, more problems coming. All right. So. Now we come only to introduction in this book. From the introduction we'll find all the lies. All right. So what the introduction says. And by the way, before I go to the more detail about this, they say this part was considered. They say this book of Baruch is 6 chapters. By the way, they said first 5 written by Baruch and the last chapter written by Jeremiah. But actually, it is not the book of Jeremiah. Well, you want to tell me now the book of Jeremiah that I do have now is a corrupted book? Is not complete. Now, by saying that, actually, you giving the enemies of the Bible, you give them the evidence that the Bible is corrupted. But it is your Bible corrupted. This one is the corrupted one. This one is the corrupted one. But our one is not corrupted one. All right. In page 221 of this book, it says a story. I have to summarize it to you. This story is from the book of Jeremiah, the proper one, of course, page chapter 43. I'll tell you the story. The Babylonian exile took 3 stages, and they stayed there 70 years, 70. First stage was 605 before Christ. Followed by 2, then year 538 before Christ, King Cyrus just said everyone can go back and you build the house of God. All right. So what happened? People like after the first wave, they thought that's it, where Daniel and the 3 young men went. But like a few years later, another wave happened, and it came and took some more people and did some more damage, and this is when Ezekiel went. After that also a third one happened. So every time they come and they take some people and they make some destruction to the city, to the burning some palaces and all that stuff. So people began to be very, of course, concerned. So some of them even were scattered to some neighboring countries, basically Jordan. And when it is a bit quiet, they come back to their homeland. All right. After the third wave, now people cannot guarantee if there is a fourth one or not. All right? We know now 3 because we know the full story. But those guys didn't know whether it will be another wave or not. So they began to think to leave Judah and not to go to the neighboring country, but they said, let's go to Egypt. It is number 1, a bit far. Plus, Egypt at that time was very strong. So they said, if we go to Egypt, this means a great refuge for us because Egypt is very strong, and king of Babel, too far for him. Plus, he is not that strong as Egypt. So they thought that. However, those people asked Jeremiah, ask the Lord if we can go to Egypt, which looks very nice, by the way. At that time, by the way, when Zedekiah was taken in the first wave, of course, the Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar appointed a person named Gedaliah as a ruler for Judah. All right? So these people like Gedaliah and also some chiefs there, and even the people that were in Judah, which were very simple people that they cannot like fight or anything like that, they asked Ermia about Jeremiah, asked the Lord if we can go to Egypt. 10 days later, the Lord answered Jeremiah and told him, tell them if you go to Egypt, the king that you are scared of, he will go to Egypt and he will kill you there. So the people 10 days later, Gedalia and all the people and Jeremiah, and also, as we will read now, and also with him was Baruch, they told them, this is what the Lord said, stay here, this is safer for you. However, if you go to Egypt, the man that you are escaping from, he will go to Egypt and he will kill you there. He meant by that the king of Babylon. All right? But however, those people said, no, you are not saying the truth. It is Baruch is the one actually steering you up against us. And in fact, they went to Egypt, and even they took Jeremiah and Baruch together by force into Egypt. So this means what? Baruch didn't go to Babylon. That's it. So we consider now it is finished off. But we have to continue because they try now to find a way to prove that this is a proper book. All right. So this is the story that you can read in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 43. So in the same introduction, now to try to prove it is a canonical book, they will say, what is the language of the book? They say it was in Hebrew. No, we don't know, but I prove now that this is a lie. All right. In the introduction, page 221, they say the book was written in Hebrew, and it was considered as annex for the book of Jeremiah. So as a start, now I would like to tell me that the book of Jeremiah that I do have now at the moment is a corrupted book. 100% it is not corrupted book. All right, but the corrupted one is the Baruch one, and they say the book was kept like running and going, and everything was peaceful in Hebrew till the 2nd century after Christ, where it was translated into Greek by a person named Saoudicion, and after that the Hebrew one disappeared. Wow. And you expect me now to tell you, yes, now I believe. No, this is a lie, and I'll prove to you now it is a lie. First of all, this means that this book was not in the Septuagint translation. Did not mention this. All right. Second thing, this is now very important. You want to tell me now the book stayed in Hebrew for nearly 750 years at least. Why? Because when this writer says, and assuming it is the Hebrew one, that these are the words that Baruch wrote and even recited in Babylon during the exile. Now we're talking about what? The 6th century before Christ. And now you tell me it was translated into Greek, and after that this was lost in the 2nd century after Christ. This means that this one particular manuscript book in Hebrew kept going, running around for 800 years, at least 750. This will expose your lie. Why? You know, many times we read and they say we changed like a translation of a word in, for example, in the Bible. And why it changed it? Because they say we found an older manuscript and this word was like that. What does it mean? There is an older manuscript. Hang on. We call it manuscript. That's fine. But in fact, that was the print that they're using. And of course, it was handwritten with some ink, and on some could be different materials that was available at that time. But actually that was the one they actually using, which exposed to the climate, the weather, when sometimes it is wet, sometimes it's dry, and even the using it, while the using also what happens, it becomes older and older, even it fades, and even like clothing, when you leave it for a while and gets old, of course it. So what happened is, when one manuscript, because of usage, becomes old and like deterioration happens to it, what you do, you write another one. That's why sometimes you see there is a manuscript, an older one than this one old, one like after it. All right. So now you would like to tell me that was only one manuscript kept running for 800 years. No, cannot stay for 800 years. Absolutely not. That's why sometimes we got so much manuscripts and say, but we must do our best to find the oldest one. The oldest one would be the most like accredited or accurate one. All right, assuming that when you rewrite could something happen. Although the percentage of that, I saw a study on that, less than 0.001, something like that. All right. However, but just I want to come to the conclusion that you cannot have one manuscript going around for 800 years. No, this is a lie. You must have more. And after that, you tell me it won't translated, and my goodness, after being translated, just disappeared. Now, it's like a childish trick. I wouldn't swallow this, and no one should swallow it, by the way. If within like 10 to 20 years, I would say, okay, maybe 100 years, I might give it like a blind eye. But for 750, could be 800 years, and you tell me it is the only one, and to be disappearing just after being translated doesn't make sense to me. All right? So this is to show that the language of it actually shows that you are wrong. You are not saying the truth. Okay, next one. They say now, in order to prove it is a canonical book, that all the Orthodox and all the Catholic consider it as a canonical book, but the Protestant not. You're talking to the wrong people when you tried like to prove this in the sense Catholic and Orthodox. What about the Jews? It is a Jewish book. It is their own like affair. It is their own business. The Lord himself entrusted them for his own word. So if you would like to know something about this, go to the Jews. These are the people actually entrusted for this. It is their baby. But when you tell me the Orthodox and the Catholic, what are you talking about? It is not your book. It is a Jewish book. It is 100% Jewish business. It is their baby. So if they say no, it is no. You're talking to the wrong people. All right? Second thing, also in the same thing, I said, how many councils accredited this book? Actually, there's so many councils to prove it is a canonical book, shows actually it is not a canonical book. If it's really good, it will take only one council. That's it, finished. 2 maximum. But when you tell me, and oh my goodness, we've taken someone about, because any council they mentioned was looking to all these junk books. All right. So when you say so many councils, actually it shows that there is a big issue, especially when you started very early in the early days of Christianity. Where is the Jewish in this situation? Jewish people, Jewish community. Right. So these are the people actually should ask them. All right. Next one. In this book again, page 222 and the 223, there is a disaster there. 2 things. Number 1, again they say it is in the apostolic canons. Actually, as I explained this before, and I showed you the page of the apostolic canons, but they mention them not in the category of the canonical books. No, they say this is not canonical, but it's good to read. All right. And now they say also something maybe here the canons or the canons of Ibn al-Assal. You might hear this word so much, by the way. Who is Ibn al-Assal? Ibn al-Assal is just a person in the 13th century. We cannot take what he says as a credited thing. This man was, I tell you, was like Ptolemy. You know Ptolemy, the guy that during his era, that was Septuagint translation, he established the great library of Alexandria, and he wanted all the important books of the world to be there in Greek. So Ibn al-Assal did the same, but on a local thing, like for the church. He found some books here and there and laws of this patriarch and whatever. He tried to collect them in like some volumes. So this is what he did. So you cannot tell me to prove that this is a canonical book. It is in the canons of Ibn al-Assal. Ibn al-Assal was just collecting or gathering this stuff. So it's a wicked way to cheat me, by the way. All right. But now I'll tell you something very important. In this book, again, page 2 to 3, it says, in order to prove that this is a canonical book, listen to this one, that Saint Athanasius quoted from it. Good. And what else? And also Saint Cyril of Jerusalem quoted from it. And he mentioned some other names, by the way. I will leave the other names for the moment. So he would like now to say, as long as Saint Athanasius quoted from it, this means it's a canonical book. Wow. And Saint Cyril of Jerusalem. Wow. No. You know this means what? The person that prepared this book, you have no idea about the canonical books that Saint Cyril of Jerusalem and Saint Athanasius mentioned. Why? I mentioned that before, I repeat this again. In his epistle, Paschal epistle, number 39, by Saint Athanasius, he put a list of the books that he says this is the canonical books, Old and the New Testament. Now we're concerned about the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, Saint Athanasius did not consider Esther, the book of Esther, as a canonical book. Forget about this now. But Saint Athanasius considered the book of Baruch as a canonical one. So the author of this book doesn't know that, because he should not say, to prove that it is a canonical book, that Saint Athanasius quoted from it. No, Saint Athanasius never did not quote from it. Saint Athanasius considered this book as a canonical book. So this means what? You don't know what you're talking about. The same with Saint Cyril of Jerusalem. If you see the list, he considered all the Old Testament plus Baruch. Like in his view, there are 40 books, not only 39 books. All right. So when you tell me that Saint Cyril of Jerusalem quoted from it, this means you are actually a very silly, a very shallow person, because you should confute me by telling me Saint Cyril of Jerusalem considers it as a canonical book, not just quoted from it. All right. So they're talking rubbish. All right. What about the other people that they say quoted from it? Very simple. I answered this. Those people that they mentioned many other names that they quoted from it, could quote it from it, but also at the same time they quoted from a book named The Instructor. So if you consider that if they quote from it, it's a canonical book, then also you should consider also The Instructor as a canonical book, but actually don't. So it's a big mess. It's a full lie. All right. Can you see what's happening now? Now the last thing, the book of Baruch is actually killing you in the idea of intercession. I read this and we'll conclude the So what does it say? O Lord, this is Baruch chapter 2, verse 16 and 17. O Lord, look down from your holy house and consider us. O Lord, open your eyes and behold, for the dead who are in the Hades, whose spirits are taken from their bodies, will not ascribe. Actually, in Arabic it says will not confess glory and righteousness to the Lord. So now he assures what? In this verse, that those who passed away, they don't glorify Lord, they don't confess his righteousness. If you need to know more about this, watch my 2 episodes, number 33 and 34 in the channel, and God willing I will be doing one later on with more details about something that I was asked for. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Share the video with others if you can. Give it a like if you think it's worth it. And unless the Lord comes, we'll meet again in another episode. May the Lord bless you all. سلام المسيح يكون معكم.